Yeah. I figured yeah, that's a good stand. That was used to be like kind of heavy.
Looks like something you'd be walking around the hospital with.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can do IV and we can do a lot of things.
IV
with it.
and film.
That's right. Yeah, they kind of come together. Yeah. Yeah. So let me let me go forward with this. Stop me anytime. Okay. And hopefully this resonate with you. Right. Yeah. So I spent quite a few years trying to figure out what's the common, how can we be equal? Okay. In cross gender, cross race, cross culture, cross age, cross anything, right? I want to find something that's that we can all say, yeah, we do. We all have this. Okay. I mean that was my goal for a long time. Okay. When my kids were young, I would look at them and say, like, why are you guys my kids? Right? And when they grow up, older, they will look at me and say, why are you my dad? And I see suffering, and I suffer, my kids suffer, my wife suffer, everybody suffers, and I want to figure out why, right? We all mean well, right? But somehow there's something going on, right? So this is my latest attempt to say, I think I found something that's interesting, right? And I use this to map to my own life, my kids' life, my family life, my friends, my family, all my patients. So far it works. So what I call is called MCA framework, okay? So mindfully centered approach. Everybody has a different framework as of now. Everybody walk around with a framework, okay? The question is it integrated? Is it cover all the aspects, or are we just try to do positive thinking all the time and miss a lot of the subconscious stuff, right? So we have this internal disharmony that we just couldn't understand. It's like I'm doing all the right things and still somehow I don't feel well, right? And that can lead to all kinds of issues, right? Yeah. So this is my model, okay? So enclosed by this is a human being. So life comes in, behavior, words, impacts, trauma, everything else comes in through our five senses. And then the five senses combined with our, internal thoughts, okay, come together into our brain system. Okay? So it hits our reptilian brain based on reflex. A library of reflex generates commands. So all the reflex commands needs to get executed. Okay, so there's a drawing a blank right now. So essentially, let's say if I'm going to hit a tree, right, driving at 90 miles an hour, my reptilian brain, based on the reflex, is going to say, raise your hand, cover your face, so you don't go through the windshield, right? If I couldn't, all my life, these two hands would not be right. Because these two hands were instructed by these commands to raise, but it couldn't react in time. Okay, so this could be a trauma, could be, a sexual trauma, for example. And the person will come in, it's just one hand, one elbow is just constantly rigid, constant. Okay, and the person just couldn't understand why. Right. So so when we say body remembers, body do remember these commands, okay? So after the trauma, like a mountain bike fall or whatever, I mean, it could be a baseball field, event or whatever, right? The body remembers it, right? But the body actually, the reptilian brain issues commands, but it was never ever truly executed, okay? So part of us want to finish that execution of these commands, and the other parts is like, why are we trying to do something? Am I out of my mind? So we try to suppress it, right? So then we create this disharmony, like, okay, internally there's something that needs to come out, but from our conscious brain, and it's like, no way I'm gonna do this. No way I want to shout, or I want to curse, or something, right? Or yell, or show fear, right? So just by understanding this in this clinic, right? A lot of people come in and they will just say, hey, have you had trauma? So life story in this clinic becomes very, very critical. Mm-hmm. Okay, especially happens before we're 10 years old. It's actually very, very, very critical. Okay? So once we understand this, releasing the reptilian brain commands is actually very simple. Okay, you just say it's okay for us to express that, mm-hmm. right? And once it's executed, it's gone. So all this path wants to do is to say, here's the commands, get it over with. Mm-hmm. Okay, it could be instantaneously, it could be 10 years later, 20 years later, 80 years later. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's all good. Okay? So this actually creates this harmony inside, physical sensation that I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. I'm trying to protect myself against what? Mm-hmm. Right? A lot of times coming out of these reptilian brain commands. Because it says you're not safe. You're not safe. As long as the commands are still there, it assumes the event is still going on. Okay. And then it goes forward into our limbic brain, which based on a set of triggers generate emotions. Okay? And triggers were installed by memorable events, right? Impactful events. Like trauma, like abuse, like somebody says, you're never going to be good enough, or if you don't do this, you never, whatever. I mean, we all have these triggers, mm-hmm. okay? And we have conflicting triggers. For example, we all want intimacy. But at the same time, most of us are very fearful of intimacy. Okay? When we get very close to intimacy, we have to cause chaos. Okay? People, to me, it's very apparent. Like people who are so loving to each other, and somehow it just goes this. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's like you get close, then you have to repel each other. Why? Because they're conflicting triggers. Okay, and a lot of these triggers were installed by our parents, right? When we're little, parents are to us are unconditional until one day we find out like this is conditional, right? Or this is worse than conditional. And all of a sudden, it's like I want this, but at the same time, I have to guard against this, right? So can you see these, all of a sudden we have conflicts, right? And all the triggers are protective. They're meant to protect us. They're not this evil bird or whatever that's saying, They're protective, they're persistent, okay? Meaning, if it's installed when we're 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 7-year-old, 10-year-old, okay, it will last until we somehow resolve it. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I have a lady, 83, 84, went to my mom's place and we're on a massage table and the heater came on and she went, And the daughter said, and she's like, what is it? She speaks Italian. And the daughter said, oh, it's the heater came on. And she said, it sounds just like the bomber in World War II. Oh. Okay. So for her, right, these triggers are still protecting her as if World War II is still going on, mm-hmm. right? So they're persistent. Okay. So when we tell people like, oh, it happened so many years ago, get over it, just move on, and it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. From a trigger standpoint, it doesn't work because triggers are there to protect us, right? And they're global, meaning if my dad installed these triggers, anybody or any event or any authority figure that kind of represent my dad's mm-hmm. attribute will trigger me. Okay, I'll probably be very attractive to people with that attribute, but at the same time, I'm very, very, against them at the same time, which is very interesting. Okay, I've heard people, sort. Well, anyway, so it's almost like an attraction and a repel. It's like we need to fix that prior relationship, right? So we kind of find somebody who are very similar to that prior relationship person, right? And somehow if we can fix this, then we'll automatically fix that, right? Then we basically repeat the same thing because you can't fight these triggers, okay? So triggers generate emotions. Mm-hmm. Okay. So
Just itchy eye.
Itchy.
Yeah, I know there's a very lot of dust in the room.
Is there? I don't know.
So emotions, to me, this is really the biggest issue in this world, in the society right now, is we say there's positive and there's negative emotions. Okay? All emotions are true, per our experience, all of them. Okay? Anxiety is true. If we say, I don't want my anxiety, we're not respecting and honoring our emotions. And then we go down a path to try to suppress it, try to get rid of it, try to use whatever means possible to get rid of our anxiety, right? And what it does is it actually heightens these triggers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I have a German Shepherd, right? I mean, every time somebody get close, right, and they start to do something, I just shut it up, right? I hit it with the stick or whatever, right? This dog's gonna get vicious because it wants to protect me, okay? Which is very, very interesting. Okay? And I see this in the clinic I see this in myself over and over again. Until I realize, oh my goodness, I have no issue. My emotions is not the issue. Because there's something behind it that generates these emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So if I fully embrace and respect my emotions, right, I'm actually loving myself to get closer to these triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, I start to say, oh my gosh, these triggers are there to protect me. But it doesn't know I don't need this protection anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right? All of a sudden, I'm transforming myself from very, very deep inside, okay? And when I do that, to me, I'm very intimate with myself. Because no longer am I saying, why am I doing this? Okay, I don't want this. I hate myself. I have a dark side, right? I would never ever say that ever again. I would never see anybody like that ever again, right? No matter their behaviors, right? If we can do this with two people, for example, to me that's true intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Because no longer are we saying, or just, just fighting on the surface level, right? Always, we all have our own triggers. Okay? I wish we have a chance to say, my name is John, and here are my triggers.
Yeah, right.
Okay? Okay? Then we'll understand each other so much better, right? All right. So emotion is really the key. Okay? It's very difficult. So all these are in the subconscious, okay? These are in the subconscious. So to me, the midbrain is situated in between subconscious and conscious, okay? Subconscious account for at least 95% of what's going on. They're powerful, very, very powerful, okay? So we know, like, okay, I'm not supposed to do certain things. Do we have control over it? Not at all. Very little. Until we start to tap into this, and until we start to have an inner smile and truly love ourselves, then we say, you know what? Thank you. We'll be so grateful of these triggers, right? Thank you so much for trying to protect me with all these anxieties, to be careful, to watch out, to, the sky will fall at some point, and I need to be prepared all the time, right? No, I don't need that anymore. Okay? Please still be active, but not at this level. Okay? Then our life will change. Okay? This noise, okay, this never stop noise will start to get quieter and quieter. So all emotions are true. So in this clinic, we have all these notebooks.
He doesn't know if he turned off your.
Gosh.
Fancy.
So that was reflex. So in this clinic, we have all these notebooks, okay? And the goal is to feel these emotions and be the most unbiased reporter ever. Just record these emotions. Okay, this is what's happening. You know, I'm in this room and this heater is on. It's not too cold or whatever. You know, you just describe. Okay. So once we describe emotion, it will actually lead to something else, right? Because we walk through the layers. Right? We're no longer saying I don't want this, so I gotta distract myself, you know, to do something else. No, we're staying with it. It's almost like a little baby that's crying, right? Instead of saying, oh, here we go again, okay, I'm going to another room, right? We actually baby it and try to figure out why is it crying. That's exactly what we need to do. You know, and we do that a few times, we understand. You know, no longer are we like, oh, I need to find a book. You know, no, just by holding it, we start to understand. Right? Okay. All right. So ideally, all this travels to our midbrain. Okay, our midbrain. I separate. This is actually what they call the frontal cortex. Okay, this is the highly developed brain. Okay, so our brain system is like here's the reptilian brain. Then somehow I kind of put on a helmet. This is the limbic brain, and somehow I put on another helmet. That's the frontal cortex. So the frontal cortex, to me, can be a midbrain and left and right. And from an energy standpoint, it actually makes sense. So midbrain has no, these are databases. These are learned stuff. Okay, and anything that can be learned can be unlearned and retrained and changed, can be transformed. Okay, so midbrain just connects to our heart. Okay, and what it comes out is actually clarity. Okay, a sense that, oh, this is where I'm going. Why? I don't know. Okay, if the answer is I don't know, most likely it's coming out of the midbrain. It just come out of nowhere. Okay, some people say it's coming out of my, you know, whatever, or coming out of somewhere, right? It just, we don't know, right? Because we really don't. I mean, we have no idea what's coming, you know, what's in the subconscious. So midbrain is actually in charge. Okay, so the midbrain literally goes from here to here. Okay? If you can imagine there's an arc or a bridge inside our brain that's right in the middle, that's exactly where it is. It comes in here, goes out. Okay? From an energy standpoint, we have a channel we call the DO channel that essentially goes from a perineum through the entire spine, okay, enters here, energizes the midbrain, come out of here, the third eye. Right? Yeah. People talk about third eye, third eye, third eye. Why? Because it's the end of the midbrain. Okay? And if we can connect our third eye to loving kindness and let's say to our parents, to our loved ones, right? We're energizing the midbrain. We're, you know, and the midbrain is in charge of our sense of hope, you know, love, autoimmune systems, auto function, right? Kidney, liver, all these systems. It produces oxytocin, which is love, right? It does. I mean, that's everything we want, basically. So, in this clinic, we actually, well, for me personally, I do not recommend like meditation or retreat or anything like that. Okay, what I recommend is having a connection all the time. Okay, like right now, I want to connect to loving kindness, and I want to connect to your heart goal, your heart goal, your heart goal. Okay, I want to do this all the time. I don't want to say, okay, I need to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 2 weeks out of my life just so I can connect. No, I don't want to do that. I want to do this I want to do this all the time, and it can be done. Okay, when we start to do this, we start to build a path. We start to strengthen this energy. Okay, because let me finish this and I'll go over. Okay. So then it goes up to our left and right brain, and based on our prior knowledge. Okay, knowledge means everything we ever learned. Okay, belief systems. What we learn, what we're taught, right? Morality, spirituality, responsibility, and it's all here. Okay, these are the things that we know, right? But if we look into it, there's a lot of conflict in there as well. Okay? So out of this, we make judgments. Okay, the world is this, the world is that. You know, this candidate is this candidate is that. Right? We make judgment. We make very, very strong judgments based on a lot of this. Right? So left and right brain. The goal for this is about right or wrong. Midbrain is actually about empowering and love. Okay. So throughout our education system, right? You know, before 3, I was, you know, after 3 years old, right? We're basically saying what's right and what's wrong. What's right, what's wrong, right? Throughout the entire school system, it's like you answer the question. You know, if you answer it right, then you get high grades, right? So, to me, education system is actually to strengthen the left and right brain. And if your left and right brain is very, very strong, then you get ahead in the society, right? But if you're very kind, okay, you have a lot of empathy skills, okay, life is actually not that, you know, at least school years is not that great, okay? So, right? So to me, there's a ideally, okay. So let me ideal loop. Okay, ideal loop is things come in, trigger our entire brain system, generate emotions. Ideally, the emotions actually goes to the midbrain. Okay, and we do what's most empowering, and we wait for clarity. And then we hand over the clarity to our left and right brain to say, this is where we want to go, this is what we want to achieve, get it done. Okay. But most of us don't do this, and to me, so this is the ideal loop, okay? The ideal loop comes in, go through this, go through our emotions, honoring this, and right? Pass it on to our midbrain and say, what's the most important thing I can do right now? Okay? If I have clarity, then we execute. Okay? If I don't have clarity, I hold. Because I don't want my left and right brain to make a decision of where I'm going based on right or wrong. Okay. I used to do this a lot. It's like I have 4 kids, and I would discipline my kids, right? And I'm doing the right thing. Okay, because I'm a father. Okay, I'm supposed to do this, right? And then one day I literally saw myself. It's like, gosh, what am I doing? I keep doing the right thing instead of what's most empowering. To understand, right? To really care for them, right? To really connect with them, to really make a bridge, right? But I kept doing the right thing, right? So that was interesting to me. It was very, very impactful for me, right? And then I say, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to try to do the right thing all the time because I just keep hitting the wall. And even when I hit the wall, I say, I'm supposed to hit the wall, right? I'm totally justified to hit the wall. What an idiot, right?
There's no idiots.
No.
Idiotic behaviors. So nowadays, I would say, what's the most important thing I can do right now? Then automatically this energy goes through the midbrain. Okay. So in Chinese medicine, we have all these channels. The channels are either left and right brain dominant, which we call gallbladder channel and bladder channel, or we can be midbrain dominant. Okay. So midbrain dominant, the key word is what's the most important thing I can do right now. So that little question, boom, engage the midbrain. It's very, very interesting. But what we normally think is, what's the right thing to do? Okay? And not only that, we're going to do the right thing, and we're going to give it all the supporting material, all the excuses, okay, all the evidence, all the facts, okay? Just so we are justified to do what's right. boy, this is tiring. Right? This we spend so much brain power trying to do that. And people who engage this actually have very, very good memory for some reason. Okay? Because that's how they organize their internal world. It's like, I'm doing this because of all this. Right? I'm doing this because of all this. Why? Because they cannot be wrong. This is actually a lot of fear-driven. It's actually very interesting.
It's remember, huh?
I
So
don't
maybe that's
remember
why I
anything,
remember
so I
everything.
must be doing
It might be
pretty
because I'm a
well.
picture photo guy.
Right. Picture. Picture. Okay. So if you're young and you start to do this, you enhance your picture ability, because before the age of 3 or 4 or 5, we're mostly picture driven, right? Only afterwards we start to learn words and speak and logic and everything else. So if we start to develop right and wrong thinking, right? Or are you doing this right? Why are you doing this? Okay, tell me why. Or you did this wrong. Replay this so you're not gonna do this wrong thing ever again. We start to enhance the picture, capability of our brain. Okay? It's actually very interesting. My theory is so I have patients who are sort of living an abusive and chaotic family. Just a lot of good memory. The memorization or the sequence or the events and picture thinking and describing and vigilance, like they come in this room, and they leave. The next time they come, oh, you moved this. Okay. She worked for CIA.
You got to keep it safe, protected,
Exactly.
known.
Right. Beautiful, right? So then in association is anxiety. Okay, it's like something may be wrong. I don't know when. I don't know where. Okay, so they will continue to examine the things they have done, the reasons why they're doing this, and they will just continue to do this, right? So it becomes a loop. To me, this is suffering.
Totally.
Right. So the solution is not to suppress, right? The left and right brain is to understand, like, that's what my left and right brain is doing. Okay? It's trying to make sure I am right. But do I need to? Right? It used to work for me, and I get to a certain level, but then I can't go up, and I can't, then, it's like I'm in between, right? I lost my footing. It's like, okay, I know I need to improve, but improve to what, right? So this will continue to loop this, right, in a protected mode, okay? Again, there's no evil within us, okay? They say, okay, left and right brain associated with ego, and ego is with this and that. No, ego is there to protect us. It's the most loyal protector ever, right? We just need to say, okay, let's work together. I'll give you clarity, and you get it done. Okay? Left and right brain is outstanding at execution. When it has all the parameters to, what to do. So that's kind of different. Okay? So all the products of our brain system, the judgment, the clarity, the emotions, and commands, affects our channels. Okay? For example, we talk about liver channel, right? If I continue to suppress myself, the liver channel cannot pass this and for me to thrive. Then my breathing is subpar. Okay, my breathing is not fully automatic. Once in a while, I have to go, right? Or something like that, right? And there might be pain around these areas. Okay, and the channel, so it affects the channel immediately. Okay, the channel is like electrical. So if I say, I am surviving versus I am thriving, my channels are completely different. Okay, if I say I hate myself versus I love myself, my channel will be completely different. Okay? And these channels will in turn affect our body. Okay, if I feel like I am nobody, then this doesn't move. Okay. So chronic suppression or chronic feeling of anxiety or depression, right, cause a lot of issues from this area. And it affects our thoughts, okay, which is kind of like who I am in this world, and okay. So all these, so over time, we don't need external input to affect our brain system. Our body and our thought will continue to agitate this loop, I guess, this infinite loop. Okay, and this is where we sink deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Okay. So that's my framework. Okay. So then I have a set of guiding principles that I use, okay? Because I know, like, this is how I am. Okay, and it's great to know that this is why I continue to mess things up. Right? It's good to know. But how do I get out of this? Right? So I have a set of guiding principles that I sort of say, okay, that's where I want to go. Okay. So the first thing is there's loving kindness. There's unconditional love. It is achievable by anybody. Okay. I know there is. I know I can do this. And anybody can do this. I have a purpose. Okay. I don't need to know what my purpose is. Okay. If I'm in the gutter, if I'm just completely at the bottom, there's a purpose for that. Okay? If I'm so miserable because I get stuck in this loop, that itself has a purpose. Because I'm so miserable. Okay? And I've tried to blame this, blame that, blame some evil side of me or whatever. I've been trying to do that for a long time just so I'd be on the right side. Okay? If I suffer enough, I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna try something else. Okay? To me, people seek because they have pain. They have disharmony within themselves. So there's a purpose for everything. Everything. Okay? Not just the good things or if you ask me, it's like, John, what's your purpose? I'm not sure. I don't really know. But I see everything has a purpose. Right? Then life is actually very interesting that way. It's not like, okay, I'm so sick, I'm so down, I'm so depressed, I'm so anxious, I have no purpose now. No, there's a purpose right here. Okay. So I have cancer patients come in and they say, say, purpose. Oh, when I get rid of cancer, I will have, I will continue my purpose. It's no. You have a purpose right now. Okay? Right now. And heart of goal. Okay? Heart of goal is everyone has a heart of goal, including myself. Okay? So to me, this is very interesting. Okay? And I'll talk more about this. And the last thing is choice. Okay? Choice brings everything together. Choice is the sense of courage, the sense of anger. Okay? Anger is a pure emotion. Anger expands ourselves. Okay? Anger gets us to be solid. Okay? Anger gets us to thrive. Okay? Anger is a pure energy. Angry is anger plus judgment. Okay? That's the thing we don't want, because then it's going to destroy things. But anger itself, right? And we demonstrate anger in the clinic many times. Okay, if we're here, you have a boundary, and I have one. Right? If I get closer and closer and get closer, your anger starts to rise. Right? Because your boundary is being impacted. Right? So when we drive or when we walk around, we actually drive and walk around with anger, because anger is our protector, is the protector of our boundary. Anger knows where. So dogs are amazing, right? It's like sitting at home. Right, this person walking the dog, like this is the house boundary, right? And then cross here, start barking, right? Bark. And this is like, there's nothing. It's like, it's amazing. Okay? So to me, that is the boundary, okay? The sense of boundary. So when we drive and the next car comes in a little bit and we automatically do this, right? Without thinking, we cannot think, okay? From here to here, it's like 0.2 to 0.8 seconds. Okay? That's forever when when we're driving at,
Yeah.
70 miles an hour or something like that, right? So anger, these emotions is actually really, I mean, the real purpose is to enable motion, right? To move. So choice, right? For example, and this is a real case, okay? So, this lady, 75, close to 80, she was actually raped by her own dad when she was young. So I said, well, you want to resolve this issue and your physical issue. Has a lot of physical issues. I said, well, you're going to connect to loving kindness, connect to your dad's heart of gold, okay? And you're going to love your dad unconditionally. She almost hit me in the face. She actually stormed out, right? Very angry. It's like, how can you possibly ask me to do it? I said, I'm not asking you. I'm just like, if you really want to. Right? And her husband was like, honey, can you please give it a try? She was mad. I really triggered her.
Mm.
And to me, 2-3 weeks later, she actually came back, right, with a choice to say, I'm going to try it. Right? And she actually did, right there. Connect to loving kindness, which was easy for her. Okay? She's a very kind person, tremendously kind. Connect to her dad's heart of gold, very, very difficult. Okay? It's like Star Wars, you have this your ship, right, and you have all these rocks, space rocks, right, and you have to somehow, all these space rocks are her dad's words and behaviors. Very, very difficult. Eventually she did, and to say, Dad, I love you unconditionally, right, or Dad, I choose to love you unconditionally. That took her a long time, but eventually she did it. Okay, for 1 minute. That's why I have these clocks with second hands. For 60 seconds, okay? And that was it. Because she made a choice. Okay? When she connect to her dad's heart of gold and love her dad unconditionally, right? She confirmed her dad has a heart of gold, and so is she. So when we have trauma, the first, we have this, how do you say this word? It's like conflicting ideas. Paradox. Is that paradox?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like our
testing my vocab.
Yeah, it's like our body can decay or hurt but how about our heart? Right? So our protection figure like, okay, our heart is just as vulnerable as our body. Right? But to me, the heart can never be hurt. Okay? It's always golden.
Mm.
Okay? And I've seen people change in an instant because they connect differently, right? So in this clinic, what we do is we heal what can be healed, or what needs to be healed. For example, a physical body. But we need to reveal our heart of gold, because most of us put our heart into the healing category. So I'm going to heal my heart because my heart was broken. Okay? To me, that's the wrong assumption. Okay. The heart is never broken. We just need to reveal that, oh my gosh, I can still love without boundary. Okay. Like that lady, okay, spent about 20 minutes to do 1 minute of work. She revealed she can easily do this. From that point on, she can say, this is my dad. Yeah, that has this horrendous behavior. But you know what? He has a heart of gold just like me. So all of a sudden, she resolved so much these suppression, so much of this stuff. I mean, I just like within. So to me, the key is, the sense of particle, right? So we can say, you know what? I know this person. This person is my dad, or this person is my whatever, girlfriend, boyfriend, relatives, or spouse, or kids, and they have a heart of gold. Okay, I'm not gonna connect to their behaviors and words anymore. I still have a good boundary, but I'm not gonna just pay attention to everything, its behavior and words, because this person, in addition to all this stuff, still has a heart of gold, and so am I. Right? Because otherwise, we go down a hole. When I was going through my issues, right? What woke me up was I had started to hate. This hate somebody. Man, that feeling that actually woke me up. It's like, no, I don't want to. No, I can be sad, or I can be mad, or I can be depressed and anxious and da. But when I started to hate, I was like, oh my God, that's too much for me. So one morning I woke up and this crystal clear feeling that I have never ever loved anybody. Not my parents, not my wife, not my kids, not myself, ever close to unconditional. And then after that, I was okay. Before that, life was chaotic, and I tried to find out why. Right? Until I know, I never ever loved unconditionally. And why? Because now I know why. Because I have all these triggers to protect me, right? To say nothing is, you cannot expect people. You cannot trust people 100%. So these are my guiding principles. Okay. So let me continue, right? So I want to talk about, because people who are kind, okay, a lot of times they're hurt. They're hurt physically, they're hurt emotionally. They become wounded healers. Okay? They really want to be in touch with other people, right? They're very, they want to help. Okay, but they end up wounded. Okay, so I came to this field of medicine because I had two teachers who were wounded healers. Okay, at first I thought, man, it's the most noble thing ever. Right? It's like they sacrifice their body and their soul for the benefit of other people. What can be more noble? Right? 2 weeks later, I was like, no, what can be more cruel than this? Right? I want to do this. I want my kids to. I want everybody to do this. Right? But if that's what we will all end up being, no, there's something I am missing. Right? And I was an engineer. Right? So the things that I don't understand, somehow it will continue to bother me. Okay? Or to run in my system. So eventually, to me, this is my answer right now. Okay, there's sympathy, there's empathy, and there's compassion. Okay, and there's three different kinds of connections. Okay, sympathy is like, okay, I'm helping another person, or I feel sorry that the person has, cancer or PTSD or is suicidal or whatever. Right? I feel sorry for that person. Right? That's sympathy. So sympathy is almost like, and energy always goes both ways. It's not because we're helping another person. It's not because I have a certificate or have this PhD, therefore, or I've been through spiritual training, or I'm a monk. So that's why my energy goes to you. I'm helping you. As if energy goes one way. No, energy always goes two ways. Okay. So when we sympathize with somebody, we automatically get a portion of what that person has. Okay. There's no, and we, to me, we break. To me, I'm not following my guiding principles. Like everything has a purpose. So I'm not respecting everything has a purpose now. Okay. And because of that, I'm actually literally taking power away from that person. Right? If I say, oh, "You're such a great person. How can you possibly, how can your husband actually leave you?" Am I taking power away from this person or give power to that person, right? Or this person has a medical condition. I feel, I'm so sorry, right? To me, I'm not, I'm taking power away from that person.
Yeah, because we kind of are above it.
That's
you
right.
know, looking down. Yeah.
So to me, how it feels is actually this person is in a hole. I say, oh, right? Just like this, right? And not only that, I am halfway in the hole as well. Okay? And we do this a lot for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We find reasons why we suffer. We find reasons why we're depressed. We find reasons why we're this, why we're that, why we're this, why we're that. To me, that's all sympathy. Right? There's no power in there. Right? We just feel more and more powerless. Okay? And there's empathy. Empathy is like a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's like a pure mirror. People come in and we see it. Okay, a lot of people have beautiful empathy skills. Okay, especially people who were traumatized when they were young. Okay, because empathy is our intuition or our sense that how the other person is feeling and doing and everything else. Okay, if I grew up in an alcoholic family, for example, highly chaotic, okay, I need to know. Okay, the person that walks in the door is in what kind of mood? Okay, am I gonna get ice cream, or I'm gonna get a beating? I don't know. So I have to know. So I start to develop these empathy skills. Okay, empathy to me is a real feelings of what's going on. Okay, beyond all the five senses, beyond all the visible things, you can literally feel how the other person is feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My youngest daughter. She's very interesting. Her empathy skill was developed, I think, not because she was traumatized, but because she has 3 older siblings. Okay, and I remember this thing. Okay, it's like, the 3 of them will be playing and running around, and she'll be crawling, and somehow she was not, stepped on.
Mm-hmm.
So she has. I don't know how, but I can still remember is a little thing in between all these chaotic movements and jumping over her or whatever, right? So when she grew up, she said, "Dad, you know what? I can sit in a coffee shop, okay? And people can walk past behind her, and she will literally feel how they feel,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to me, that's empathy skill, okay? Empathy skill, in my opinion, you can't not turn it off. People try to turn it off, okay? With crystals, jewelries, rocks, and all kinds of stuff. They just they don't want to feel, because they feel too much. Okay, very, very interesting, right? But empathy skill, in my opinion, is truly a skill. It's a gift. Okay, empathy skill, when used properly, it's tremendous, because you know what's going on. You have an X-ray of people's mind, essentially. Okay, it's a very, very powerful thing. Okay, but if we combine,
That's you.
but if we combine empathy with sympathy, we hurt ourselves all the time. Okay, because instead of being a pure mirror, all of a sudden we, the thing that comes in, right, and the person leaves, it stays in our mirror because of sympathy. Sympathy grabs. So it's very interesting, right? So the way the way to do this is actually to connect to loving kindness through here, and through loving kindness I connect to another person, right? Then I can care and love and everything else, and still feel without issues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Quite a few years ago, I made a vow to serve wounded healers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I actually have a group of close to 20 people. Somehow we met and we mingle and everything else, right? And most of them are like you know, like I want to save the world. Right? So they will literally throw themselves in the world and try to save it. Right? And then they have too much, then they literally have to pack their bags, go back into the deep mountains. Right? And they say, oh, okay, I'm never going to do this again. And I look at her and say, no, you're going to come back, okay? Because you have a calling within you, until you figure it out. Okay? So it's really the sympathy. And sympathy is all about doing the right thing. What am I supposed to do? Instead of doing what's most empowering. Okay, so, in my opinion, loving kindness or unconditional love or compassion is really doing what's most empowering at the moment. To me, that's my definition of compassion. Because you cannot define compassion. What is compassion? Okay, not killing, is not killing compassionate? Right? Doing what's most empowering at the moment. It might be killing. It may not be. So what's most empowering, I honestly, this is how I, after a few years, this is how I think now. Right? I don't think what's right. Because I've seen people doing the right thing all the time, and they try to justify it, and they become so righteous about it, right? Then they actually hurt themselves and then hurt everybody around them. They're doing the right thing. Right? They're not doing what's most empowering. And the thing is, once we are right, we have to maintain that position, which is very, very difficult. Very difficult. Yeah. Okay, so that's empathy, sympathy, empathy, compassion. Okay. So we want to heal what. So the definition. So what can be healed, right? Versus what needs to get revealed, right? To me, if we can make that crystal clear, we have a much better life. So things can go in parallel, right? If somebody is in addiction, right? We need to take care of the healing part. We also need to take care of the revealing part. You cannot just take care of the healing part as if everything is about healing. No, we gotta reveal the heart of gold as well. Because then the person feel like, yeah, I just have this. I just need to resolve this, and that's it. Instead of I'm in total mess. Right?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Heart of gold.
When I say mess,
Heal
I
and
mean,
move on.
when I say mess, I mean me. Okay, so the first loop we need to do is actually our parents. Okay? Because our parents build the initial set of triggers, at least in this life. Okay? And from then, we have all these basic emotions, basic suppressions and judgment, and then we start to build upon that trigger foundation, I guess, right? Protection, right? And then all of a sudden, it seems like it's very, very difficult to resolve. So go back to the parents. And the good thing is we all have parents. Okay, so there's no, and whether they're still around or not is irrelevant. Okay, so all we gotta do is connect to loving kindness, connect to our parents' heart of gold, right, and love our parents unconditionally. This may sound, this to me may not even sound relevant, okay, to the things that we're trying to resolve right now, okay, but it's important to get down to the roots, okay? Because through parents we can have huge amount of suppression, huge amount of anxiety, huge amount of what's right and what's not, what's ethical, what's what's moral, right? How to be an upright person, and all that kind of good stuff. Okay? They may or may not be relevant or empowering for us right now. Okay? So by loving them unconditionally, we start to be on par with them. We're not like you know, somehow we need to follow them, or to be so affected by them, right? Even though we may resent them. Very interesting. So, so bring that level, you know, to the same level. Then do what's most important. So to me, this is really a journey of self-love. Okay, when we start to say, to map our life experience into a framework, right? We start to see this and say, oh wow, now I can love myself. Okay, because how many people, after they have an emotional outburst and they have whatever behaviors, then they start to step themselves, right? Then they go back, then they, you know, repeat the same cycle exactly again, right? Why? Because we cannot love ourselves because we've done the wrong thing, or we've done this whatever behavior, right? So to me, in this clinic, this is what I like to offer, is to say, okay, yes, we may have behavior we need to resolve, right? But we also have things we need to review. And when we do that, there's no enemy within. There's no darkness. There's no evil side, right? There's no room that we cannot open and say, this is my house, right? This is my place, and I wanna look at it, right? So these are channels. Okay, this is more specific to Chinese medicine. But the key really is when we connect, all the channels are running well. So almost done. Okay, so cultivation. Okay, cultivation just means all the time. Okay, connection. We can do this, right? All the time. No. Embrace all our emotions when they come up. Okay. Truly have a sense that I am embracing my emotion. Okay. Not just say, okay, I see it, I'm going to pass through it. No, embrace it, because their emotions are just messages. Okay. Emotions are messages from deep. Right. And this is what we want to transform. Right? This is the key area to transform. When we transform this, life is very, very different. We still have all the emotions, but we're not going to be driven by these triggers, and then we don't understand why. You know, we have disharmony that we just cannot resolve. Okay. The posture will be different. Okay. We talk about, you know, we'll do some adjustment later. Journaling. Okay.
My favorite. I love it.
Beautiful. Right. So beautiful. Okay, so journal in a sense that if we can incorporate. Okay, so if you journal and you have a framework, again, this is, you know, what I have, right? You can have exactly the same thing, but it's going to be yours. Okay, and that's the only way it's going to work. Right? So if we have a framework and we have a set of guiding principles, then the journaling to me is to complete that loop. Okay, it's like I experienced this today. This kind of triggers me. Okay, and I honor this trigger. I honor my emotion. I'm actually very grateful this person triggered me. Right? Because it allows me to see there's something in there. Right? So from that standpoint, we'll start to close that loop. Okay, so journaling, in my opinion, is really how we close that loop. Right? So when we get triggered, inner smile. Hi, I think Jason is really good at that now. Yeah. So this sense of inner smile is really how we love ourselves. Right? To say, oh, I got triggered. Right? I have another protection that I wasn't, or this protection is still there. Right? It doesn't, you know, things don't just go away because we know it. Right? It takes a few loops. It takes, you know, several iterations for us to say, oh, it's still there. Right? It's almost like, are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. Okay, but we are heading there.
And they never truly go away, right? They just quiet down and you kind of repass.
Yeah. So to me, it's like they're not in high alert. Okay, so if there are 5 levels of things, right, they go back down to 1 or 2, right? And that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's what we want, right? We don't want to drive without a sense of boundary. I don't want to walk on the street without a sense of boundary, right? But I don't want to feel like this all the time, right? So it's situational, right? So when we start to, it's actually very interesting. You know, it's the same thing with a dog, right? So when a dog is well trained, right, it knows the place to be more vigilant or not. It knows when to relax. We don't want a dog that's constantly vigilant or constantly relaxed, right? So the same thing with our protection, right? So all these triggers, you know, like I remember when I moved, man, I was so vigilant. You know, I can't sleep at night. You know, anyway. So have a sense of thriving courage, right? You know. So the okay. So the biggest word for cancer is survive, okay, or survivor, right? And people come in, oh, I'm a cancer survivor for, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Okay, this is the last time you're going to use this word. Okay? From this point on, you're going to thrive.
Yeah.
Okay? You're just going to thrive. Okay? This word has no power. Okay? This word is like, something's going to happen to me, I have no control.
Well, plus it's a fight.
The what?
It's like a fight. You're
Right.
surviving
That's right.
instead of, meeting it.
Yeah, thriving.
Yeah, thriving.
Right. So they all, surviving has a sense of anger too, right? So is thriving, right? Has anger as well, but this one actually contains a sense of injustice.
Mm-hmm.
This is just, I'm gonna thrive through this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This tree get blocked by a huge rock. What the fuck is this rock doing here? Right?
I'll just go
Right,
like that.
it's not gonna do that, right? It's not gonna survive through the rock.
No.
It's gonna thrive through the
That's
rock.
right.
Okay.
Keep going.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. So self-care. Okay. So you're gonna follow your pain. Okay. So you may have pain around these areas. You may have pain around these areas. You're gonna feel a little bit. Okay. I actually prepare a bag for self-care tools.
Oh.
Okay.
Love it.
And once you follow your pain, you're gonna have a lot of gratitude. Okay, I run these cancer support groups. In one of the sessions, we will actually like cover, for example, breast cancer, the location of the breast cancer, right? And for a lot of for basically all of them, that's the first time they ever put a hand on it. Ever. Right. And then we go on and say, you're gonna love your body, right? I mean, truly love your body, right? And actually overcome a lot of stuff. Right? Very, very powerful that way. The sense of gratitude. Okay? It's like, honestly, we only have this one body for this one lifetime. It's really incredible. Yeah, it's really, really incredible. So balance is, so health versus performance. Okay, too many people work out because they want to perform. Okay? To me, to move is actually to understand myself. So I do a lot of movement in front of a mirror. And I do it very, very slowly. Right? Why? Because I want to feel myself. I want to connect to my body. I don't want to exhaust my body just so I can get out, right? Or get out of my mind. Right? I want to feel. Okay? Cool. This is what I have.
Yay!
Thank you. Is that all?
Want to take a little break?
I'll just use the restroom.
Okay.
I need to use the restroom as
Yeah,
well.
please.
You'll tell me where it is?
No.